Right. So once again, thank you for coming to this playback and conversation.
Mm.
Uh, this particular session, we are looking to explore the roles of the Center for Playback Theatre as well as the International Playback Theatre Network, the roles of these two organizations in the wider playback theatre community. So before we look too much into the present and the future, we will also have Jonathan talk to us for a few minutes, perhaps bringing us back into the past of these two organizations. And then Nastya and I, we will have a conversation, a dialogue, a little bit more informal perhaps, and then we will open up the floor for questions, either in the chat or if you want to, please come off mute and come on video to ask your questions or to give any comments. Okay, so if sorry, I'm just letting a few more people in. Okay, so let's get going, shall we? I'm going to give the time to Jonathan. Jonathan, thank you for coming this evening and giving us a few minutes of your time.
Yes, hi everyone. It's lovely to see so many old friends and colleagues this morning. It's my morning, and I'll just give a little background, uh, and then I have another appointment, so I'm going to have to leave. Um, but I think it's a wonderful occasion, and I'm going to share the screen just so you can look at some of the dates I'm going to talk about. Um, Can you all see the screen? Yes, okay. So the original company started in 1976. We lasted for 12 or 13 years before we retired. And we organized ourselves legally in the United States as what we call a non-for-profit organization or company. In England, it's called an association. Um, and when we retired, um, as you can see, the next year, the IPTN was started. So we started the IPTN, and actually the original company gave its structure to the IPTN. So the IPTN from the beginning was a nonprofit organization. And the reason we started the IPTN was just that it seemed it seemed that playback was going to last beyond the original company. There were people interested in a number of different places, and Joe and I didn't feel it was appropriate really for everything to come through us, and it felt better to have an organization that would be for all the members, and not necessarily, with us in control of it. So that was the beginning of the IPTN. 3 years later, I started the School of Playback Theater, which became the Center for Playback Theater. And it was a training organization, different in concept from the IPTN. It was a membership organization for all people practicing playback, which featured from the beginning the newsletter and slowly evolved the organizing of conferences, but that didn't happen for a while. Okay, so from 1993 on, you had the two organizations, the IPTN and the School of PT, CPT, and you can be talking about this, but from the beginning, people seemed a little bit confused about these two organizations. Why two organizations? What were their differences, and so forth. In 2005, so we're skipping forward a number of years, when the two organizations existed side by side. In 2005, the center started an experiment for expanding our income streams beyond just training. It wasn't such a successful experiment, but we booked performances for other companies because we had a professional office with a staff. We um, took care of the books for a number of playback companies. They used our legal structure. And we were trying to become kind of more of a full service organization that did training, but other things as well. And during this time, I approached the IPTN board and I said, well, why don't we try to integrate some of our activities, because we have this professional office with a staff and we can help you get things done. But at that time, there wasn't really interest from the IPTN in integration. In 2010, I retired from the Center for Playback Theatre, and this was just at the end of the recession. And it turned out that the center didn't have enough resources in this recession and post-recession period to maintain its office and its staff. So from about 2011 on, both the IPTN and the Center for Playback Theatre have been all volunteer organizations. So I think that's the end of my presentation, actually. Maybe Michael or Nastia, do you want to ask a question or make a comment? Or anything else you might want me to fill out?
Well, I think it can also be that anybody who has maybe one question before you
Sure,
go.
sure. Yeah, I know that was quick, but that gives you kind of an overview.
Well, I guess if I had one question, the curiosity would be, how much into the future of both organizations did you think about? Like, you know, what's in the future for both organizations in the very early days?
Well, I don't know if I thought too much about that. I mean, the idea of the IPTN was just this network, a membership network with other people from the beginning. Other people were officers of that. And then when I started the center, like the very beginning of Playback Theatre, I mean, the center was sort of my project, but then the center also became wider and not exclusively my project, although of course I was the main trainer and the main force behind the center. I don't know if that answered your question, but.
Thank you. Nastia, do you have a comment or question?
Well, out of curiosity, I do have my question, but I hope it's appropriate to ask. So what was your biggest hope, like these two organizations or one of them would accomplish for the community or for the world?
Yeah, so, you know, both those sound similar, both Michael and your question, Nastia. You have to understand that we were everything was just so new and so young, and we were just starting. And so the IPTN, the idea was, let's just make it for everybody. And so all the questions don't come through Jonathan and Joe and all of the, so that was all. And we had a meeting at our house. There were 10 people there. The first meeting, 3 of them were from overseas. But then, of course, it became much more international. The Center for Playback Theatre started as a training organization where we tried to organize training for playback theatre, and that's all we were really thinking about. So I think it's because playback theatre, the idea grew so much that both of these organizations drew people from all over the world. And that really wasn't, we couldn't even dream of that at the beginning. So that was a wonderful, unexpected, and of course at different times, a challenging surprise. Bea, did you have a question? I saw.
Yes, I raised my hand. I do have, if I can. You said that in 2010 or after that, um, your idea or your suggestion or kind of initiative was to merge the two organizations. And was there, what was behind this idea?
Well, so that from 2005,
Okay.
2010 is when I stepped back.
Mm-hmm.
2000, well, it was just that people seemed to be confused. That was one reason. They didn't have a clear sense of the identity of both organizations. And the other reason was that the IPTN seemed to have a lot of trouble getting things done. So even simple communications could take a very long time. And I thought, well, look, we have an office. We have somebody in the office all the time. We have someone at the telephone. So maybe this is a good thing. Um, but on the other hand, the Center for Playback Theater, even though it was an official nonprofit organization with a board of directors and so forth, it was very much my, I was the director, the executive director. I was the main trainer. And I wasn't that successful in bringing in lots of people to help run it and manage it. And since I stepped back, the center, like the IPN, is much more, has had a much more participatory management. So looking at you, Bea, or Michael, or others who are here, you've been very important in not only managing the center, but in keeping it alive and putting forward good new ideas and so forth. So that's a good thing, really. It's gone beyond me in a good way.
If I could have one more question, could you say a few words about the change in name from school to Center for Playback Theatre?
Yes. Okay. So the original company, from the beginning, I wanted it to be an arts organization, a theater company that would get funding, that would get grants. We organized that way. We were never terribly successful getting official grants. When I started the School of Playback Theater, I thought this was such hard work. This, nonprofit theater company. I burned myself out. I got exhausted. I know Judy's here. We struggled so much in different ways. I'm not going to do that again. I'm just going to start this school. It's going to be my business. It's going to be my project. But of course, after a few years, we started to attract people who, came from places where they couldn't afford to pay for the classes. We wanted access. We realized we needed maybe to raise money for scholarships. And suddenly we were facing and made the decision, yes, let's make the school also a nonprofit so we can raise money for scholarships. So at that time, we changed it to the Center for Playback Theater as it officially became a nonprofit, legally and tax exempt and so forth. So we could accept contributions and make it possible. We had a very vigorous scholarship program and worked hard to raise money so that people could come. So, my idea of being exhausted, I became exhausted a second time.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Okay.
very much for
Well,
making the time today.
yeah, and have a wonderful discussion, everybody, and I look forward to hearing about the results.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye for
Thank you.
now.
Have a nice day, Jonathan. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
So Nastia, I think we heard very early on in what Jonathan said about, well, playback spreading all over the world now. Perhaps let's hear a few other voices. If people could just come off mute and just say where you're dialing in from, I think it might be a nice introduction before we go in.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Great. So, well, folks, let's come off mute. You know how this works now. Say where you're dialing in from. Let us hear you.
Mexico.
Welcome.
India.
Ukraine, Dnipro.
Ukraine, Kiev.
Russia, Moscow.
Ukraine, Dnipro.
Ukraine, Odessa.
Italy.
Italy also.
Welcome.
Mumbai, India. Bangalore,
Switzerland.
India.
Lithuania, Vilnius.
Brooklyn. Brazil.
Ukraine
Hello
again.
from Bulgaria.
Mumbai, India.
Hello from Bulgaria, from our seaside.
Mexico.
Hungary.
Budo, Norway.
Kiev, Ukraine.
Russia,
Norway,
Moscow.
Norway, Scandinavia.
Taiwan.
Ukrainian Donetsk.
Ukraine, Dnipro.
And the last few seconds. Okay. Welcome to
And I guess some people send it on the chat, which is Darwin, Australia, and Holland. And I'm sure more people, I mean, here with us. It's just fascinating to see how many countries do we have. And actually, by the way, Michael, do you know how many countries doing playback now?
Oof. I've heard 70. I'm not sure. What do you think?
In my presentation last year, which I was, collecting all the data, it was more than 86.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's incredible. Well, so I guess the next part might be for us to kind of share some thoughts and responses, perhaps to what Jonathan has shared with us. And then we can talk separately about each other's work, well, our own work, and then we can come back in for another chat. Does that sound like a plan? So one thought that came up for me was that last year was IPTN's 30th anniversary. And in a couple of years that it would be CPT's 30th anniversary. And it feels like that both organizations have been emerging and evolving in response to needs, to what people who were in both organizations figured were the needs at that point in time. And I guess in our 30 years, at this point in time, it's also a good time to take stock, because the last couple of years has been so full of changes. That it's really a good time to think about what the future holds for both organizations. So that's one thought that I had. What about you?
So I think, I mean, now the world are changing so quickly, especially with all this pandemic and, it's hard. So I guess the needs of the community is also changing. So, and I believe, maybe it's time for CPT and IPTN to come together and think how we can help each other to, you know, fulfill the needs and mission and purposes which we has in our own organizations for the community.
Yep, I agree. I think there is always room for more collaboration, more discussions and conversations. And I think, yes, both organizations are clearly different in focus, yet there is a lot of overlap in what we can do. And we're all friends, we all know each other, and we know we meet each other at different conferences and so on and so forth. I think there's lots of room for a closer relationship of sorts.
I have a question. So I'm just wondering if there's a certain situation that that ignited your initiative of bringing out in the open, questioning the roles of the center and IPTN. I'm just wondering the origin of your impulse right now. Is there a certain situation that brought you to want to clarify this?
Well, perhaps I can take that question, and Nastia can say more. I guess in some sense, it's always been a question that's floating in the background. What do these two organizations do? And so often people are confused, and sometimes they want to talk to IPTN, but they will email CPT and, you know, things of that sort. And for the last two conferences, international Playback Theatre conferences, we've been preparing like a document that, you know, states out the differences between the two organizations. So it feels like that question about the two organizations has never really gone away. And another part of the equation is that, you know, in the world today with Zoom, with so many things that's possible in terms of bringing people together, I think it's a why not? Why not let's have a chat between the two organizations? I think it's great for the community. I think it's also great for the individual organizations. And I've had this idea for a long time to have this kind of conversation. So this was it. This was the result of those thoughts. So, Nastia, is there any
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I can't quite see you. There's so many faces now on the screen. So, back to you, Nastia. Is there a comment you want to make before perhaps we talk a little bit about the work of both organizations?
I think I agree with what you mentioned, Michael, before, but I guess it may be a little more clear since we talk a little more, you know, about CPT and IPTN, what we do and what is, you know, the stage we're having now, what's the challenges, you know, what's the ideas do we have, and then we can come back to this, you know, important question, why we are here and why two organizations decide to have a conversation with all of you.
Great, sounds good. So perhaps you want to take the next few minutes and share about IPTN?
Sure, I can begin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I will share the screen in a moment, but I just want to start to talk about IPTN and take you for a little excursion. You know, what are we doing? You know, what does this letters IPTN means and where we are now? But I think I begin with my story is Nastia. So my name is Anastasia, but it's like official name in my country, almost too official for the president, for the playback president. So my short name is Nastia. I remember I wasn't a member of IPTN yet. It was a long time ago. And I went to European gathering. And we had a big party, you know, all those kinds of parties which is happening, you know, during the conferences, events, playback, things where all the different countries, cultures comes together and dance and drink and and everyone wants to buy drink for each other. You know, I was pretty impressed. But few weeks after, I went to Cuba. And of course, you know, meeting a playback fellows, you want to have a you know, some welcoming ritual and connection, and of course party. I guess playbackers like to party, but it was very different. So on Cuba, we went to somebody's house. You know, in order to have a party, you need to, you know, to visit somebody's house, just because, you know, to go out in the cafes or restaurants seems almost impossible, especially for locals. You know, they don't have that money to pay the bill. And we start preparing the list for the party. And one of the main things on this list wasn't alcohol, juice, food, or whatever it is we get used to have, you know, for the parties, but it was a toilet paper. Because, you know, once you come to somebody's house, you know, many people, we finish it very quickly. But in order to buy a toilet paper on Cuba, you need to stay in the line. And not everybody has that resources, has that, you know, that amount of money to buy more toilet paper than they usually do. Can you just imagine like how many of us sitting here on this Zoom meeting and thinking like how many times in our lives we thought about toilet paper? I guess it's not many of us. So I was shocked, actually. I was shocked, and I was like, wow, you know, during the conferences, I mean, majority of us is like white privileged folks coming together. And what about the rest of the world, you know? So my idea and my dream was, oh, okay, becoming the IPTN member, maybe this, you know, membership or donation per year, which IPTN had that time, you know, make a little difference for somebody on the other part of the world. So that was my idea. I mean, some of the dreams failed, some of the dreams came true, you know. So some of the thoughts and images about IPTN, I said, okay, that's what I was thinking about. And some of that wasn't like this. Some of that was like, oh no, that's not what I was thinking about, you know, about this idealistic picture. But somehow, you know, this idea that in playback we have so many diversity and you know, playback communities, the microcosm of the bigger world, you know, with all these challenges and all this oppression and privileges, and how us, you know, with, you know, having a playback with all this strong mission, like what serving the community and bringing people together through stories, but also staying with you know, all this human rights and, you know, matters and values. This is important for us to at least, you know, allow ourselves to think like, what can we do, what can each of us do, you know, to make the world maybe a little better place than we have now. So, and now I shared my story how I joined the IPTN, but now I will take you for a little excursion to show how IPTN was functioning all, you know, over the years. And I joined IPTN actually not that long time ago, to be honest. Tell me if you see my screen. Okay, that's good. Awesome. So like Jonathan mentioned before, in 90s, Jonathan and Joe Salas and, you know, members of the first original company decided to establish IPTN as a way to give possibility for us to exchange, because playback started growing, you know, and we didn't have Zoom. I mean, that time we didn't have social media, but how we can keep in touch, how we can, share all this, precious things which we has from different, countries, from having one group so different than another. So that's how in 91, IPTN had a first playback conference, and it took place in Australia. Why Australia, right? But I guess because, once the playback was founded by Joe and Jonathan, so very quickly, they were invited with the first original company to come to Australia and New Zealand and, teach the playback there. And actually, I'm very fascinated just because from that time, I think it was 86 or something, it's incredible, but from that time, many companies still exists. Like imagine being in a playback company like over 40 years together with all those, people. So that's amazing. So, and from that time, from 1991, so IPTN started having conferences. And as you see, early times, it was conference once a year, on the annual conference. But then, I guess IPTN or community realized like, well, we need more time for reflection in between. So now we have International Playback Conference once a 4 years, and IPTN trying to choose the country which give more possibility for those local communities from around who didn't have possibility to attend the previous conference because it was too far, for example, or tickets was too expensive, right? So yeah. So another thing what IPTN was doing before is International Playback Journal. So now it's called IPTN Journal, and before the name of the journal was Interplay. Just because in playback, again, just because we do so many different projects, like serving this community and that community, like in some countries, I know like Portugal, people with playback, using playback, working in prison like more than 20 years for prisoners. Or on the other part of the world, like Sri Lanka, they use playback for, social dialogue and transformation, or, Palestine for working with the communities of the occupation, war trauma, or so different, different countries, different purposes. So the idea to have an IPTN journal and share how we do this, what's the specifics, was one of the main activities from IPTN. And also, what really, what I like the most about playback, we always have these polarities and try to reach the balance. And even in the way how we write articles, like in playback, we also have scientists who is doing research, who keep doing research, who keep, collecting the database, which is more about theoretical part of the playback. And also, other people who just doing project and then like they're so great, and we ask like, can you please share with the rest of the world how you was doing it? What was your experience? What was your mistakes? So IPTN Journal was collecting all those different, articles all together. And I know it was in English, but also many volunteers from around the world was helping with translation. So in 17 and 18, IPTN, tried to support local gatherings like International Playback Camp, and, more local gatherings like, I guess, Mediterranean one. And what do I mean by support, right? So I mean, giving a portion, some amount of money, seeding money for the scholarships, in order to bring those people who cannot afford, not even pay organizational fee, but just simply to buy a ticket or pay for accommodation. So I guess that was, I like that part of IPTN that time. So in 19, it was Cuban project, and Playback was presented at the UNESCO conference. But I think the main goal was to support local Playback community even more than present Playback at the UNESCO conference. So I guess that was an important part. And in 19, it was a first pilot grant project. So IPTN came to the community and said, listen, we have this amount of money, so we want to support you and, to give a seeding money for those projects who cannot, start doing some research or activity without this money. So we choose, I guess, free projects from around the world who got certain amount of money from IPTN to begin their projects, and see, it's so different. Some of them is working with local communities of women, and some of them is like a polarity. It's more about science, like Houston Playback Theatre was making a research into mental health recovery, and what they were doing, they were literally doing MRI before and after the Teller story, which was, amazing. So see how different, projects we do, and how important to stay connected and exchange actually and share this precious knowledge. So already like few months ago, we had only 6 board members on IPTN. So we were desperate. We were looking for, new blood, for new enthusiastic people who can just come and, co-create together. That's how we were, begging those people to come. And actually we succeed, because now, first time ever, I guess, in IPTN history, we have more than 16 board members, which is like, we never ever had that many. Why? You might ask this question, why? So, well, first of all, it's a challenge, but at the same time, IPTN represents the community, right? Which means board members, we need to, be more mindful and aware about how many, us, like cultures, countries, nations represented, represents in board members. So, and of course, not everybody, not every country, not every culture, unfortunately, present yet on board member committee, but we're trying hard. And so our first question when we came was like, okay, well, when we came, first intention was like, okay, let's do this and let's do that and let's continue to do this. But then we slowed down and we come down and we said like, well, but does it make sense in this world, which is changing so much, to keep doing everything the same what the IPTN was doing over the years? And the answer was maybe not. And then the second thing was, okay, let's serve the community. Let's serve, the needs of the community. But then another question came, like, but what's the needs of the community? Do we even know what the community needs at that moment, right? So that's how we came up with this idea to actually ask all of us, what do we need at the moment? So we prepared the survey, and we decided the mission and vision might be changed, but we begin with with asking this question of the community. That's how we can understand what is IPTN job for the next year, what we're going to do for the next year, right? So, and actually, all these beautiful faces which you see on the screen, many of them are present now in the audience, right? Maybe you can wave. Yes, so, and now for a few weeks, one of the committees of IPTN was working on completing the question questionnaire, you know. So today, actually, this is the date we're sending it out and asking everybody, not only not only members of IPTN, but everybody, because community is not only the members of this or that organization, right? Community, it's all of us. It's all of us who is doing playback. So, and this survey for all of us, and maybe Andrea, who is the vice president of IPTN, can I ask you to send the link in the chat? So if also you can, you know, kindly spend a few minutes of your time to complete the survey, it would be extremely important. So on the question, what are we doing now as IPTN? I don't have an answer, but I have all this excitement. What would be the answers? Just to come together with all the board members and think how and when and which instruments and which ideas we will create to serve your needs. So I think I'm done. It was a pretty short, but I hope it gave you some little idea what IPTN is. And I'm sending the ball to Michael.
Thank you, Nastia. That was awesome. And I guess the first thing that's coming to my mind is the energy that you're talking about. I feel for myself a change in energies, still quite energetic, but a different kind of energy because unlike you, I'm coming to the end of my term. So I will step down in October, and it is also quite exciting to think of what else will happen after that. For me, on a personal basis, I'd say. So I guess I would also share a little bit about the work of the CPT, very, very briefly. And on a personal note, my association with either IPTN or CPT came about because of a very big desire to want to connect to playbackers and to want to learn a lot about playback and to learn it very fast. Because in Singapore, for a very long time, there was only one playback company. And there wasn't much playback in the countries just around Singapore. So to get to learn about playback, to get to really see other kinds of groups and performances, we would have to travel quite a bit. So as you're speaking, I can just kind of see the history changing, kind of see the times changing, like, you know, going to the letterbox, opening the envelope and taking out a physical newsletter. You know, that was the interplay that you were talking about. I also had signed up on behalf of my playback group to the Center for Playback's company partnership, something like that. And there was
Company Partners Program.
Company Partners Program. Thank you. I think that's Shayla. I can't see the faces now, so too many. And it also came with a newsletter or an article that's written by Jonathan. So those were like gold. Like you would go to the mailbox, you would get these information and you know, pearls of wisdom, and that kept you know, the connection with the playback community alive in a certain way for us in Singapore. For me, definitely. I will also share a few slides about the CPT's work. So it's a really simple slide that I think shows the focus of the CPT in today's context. We really have just three main focus of work. One is the accredited trainers, another is the affiliate schools, and the last is the leadership training. So if you recall, a few years ago, the centers stopped offering level 1 classes, level 2 classes for many different reasons. And I think it was a really good decision because we have so many wonderful affiliate schools around the world. We have so many wonderful accredited trainers around the world who can give quality training. And we figured that it was good for the center to just focus on offering support in other ways. For example, leadership training, for example, further support for accredited trainers and affiliate schools. So this is the three focus that's kind of clear for us at this point. I have to say that as Nastia was talking, and the idea that the world has changed so much in the last 10, 20 years, and so much in the last 1, 2 years. The one question and the one challenge that is coming up is, can we pivot fast enough to meet people's needs? Can we move? And even if we move, how much of people's needs can we actually meet? So I think that is that thing to consider. And another thing that popped up at the end of Jonathan's speech was that both organizations are volunteer run. It is very much true for CPT today. It is run by an incredible team of dedicated volunteers from all around the world. And these are the committees that run the different parts of the center. All the committees are active in different parts of the year. Some are more active than others. Others, like the strategic committee, are a little bit more ad hoc. But they're all served by people from different parts of the world and who feel a calling to dedicate work for quality training, for best practices. So I talked a little bit about accredited trainers. This number 98, we have 98 accredited trainers around the world. It's not taken into account the last window. So I'm pretty sure this number it should be a little bit more by now. So we have 98 trainers from all over the world. They're all listed on the website. We have 16 affiliate schools, again, in different parts of the world that are doing a marvelous job, that are also at this point, trying to figure out and transit to, the online playback space, as well as trying to still hold a space for more conventional and traditional forms of playback. So these schools are also listed on the center's website. So I want to just take a moment to acknowledge these wonderful people, my board of directors, the people that I serve with. There's Debbie, Bea, Ron, Igor, Celine, Jami, and Mina. I think some of them are here as well. I would like to give a personal big thank you to all of them. So, yep, thank you. And so I said earlier that I was going to step off in October. So Ron is also going to step off. I think Debbie's also going to step off. We're going to step off into something called a transition year. So we're still going to be like around, but not quite around, and helping to support those who are stepping into our positions. And these are the wonderful folks who are coming onto the board in October. We have Heidi, Radhika, Deb, and Sveta. And I think there's that similarity with the IPTN board, which is that we try to think about representation in terms of culture, in terms of geography, as best as we can. At the same time, I think it's also that we're also looking for people who have an understanding or have a willingness to understand the focus of the center, what the work at the center is. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing for a bit. Right, I think that's all I will speak about the center's work for now. I think there will be time for questions, but maybe now is the time for me and Nastia to have a chat. What's coming up for you? When you look at what the center's work is, where are the synergies, where are the challenges, what's coming up for you? In the meantime, sorry, just want to interrupt. In the meantime, if anybody has any questions, comments, feel free to pop into the chat, and we will also open up the space in a few minutes for people to speak. Yep, Nastia, take it away.
So actually, probably, now I see this moment on the conference in Montreal where, CPT and IPTN, first time ever co-created, some logo together. So I guess it was a bag, from the material, and it was logo of IPTN and logo of CPT comes together. So I guess for me, as for Nastya, I couldn't say now with behalf of all the board members, just because first we need to talk together. But me as Nastya, of course, I would like actually to come, and not only once a 4 years during the conferences, like IPTN board members and CPT board members together and formally talk together, which is like too formal sometimes for me. I envision, for us, maybe come together and spend some time, just get to know each other, who we are, what is our personal, personalities, what do we want, and what do we really dream, and then maybe, once we start dreaming about the future, so then we can find some common points, because I guess the main difference for me is, CPT, you guys, you do, a quality of education, that's how we all, do playback. So and us, we, invite all those people who finish the courses or get acquainted with playback from you, from CPT, right? And then we create the networking, the, exchange, possibility for exchange, and saying like, listen, the world is bigger than just your playback group. The world is bigger than just your city or your country, it's a community. So I think we cannot exist one without another sometimes. Maybe I'm wrong, but I like this idea that we cannot exist without each other.
I sometimes think it would be beautiful if we don't need both organizations. That the community self-organizes and things are popping up like
yes,
all over the place. But I think the truth is there is still some space for the two organizations. When you were talking, what occurred to me was that it's not about the CPT setting the standards for training and for quality playback. It's more about inviting people to continue to learn. And I think part of that, especially in today's world, is bringing people together, because that's how we learn, right? Playback is about group wisdom. Playback is about creating that human relationships with one another so that we can support one another to learn in different ways. And I think that's kind of the focus for the work. It's not just about, this is right and this is wrong. It's not just about this is the way to be, but how can we create platforms for people to come together? Maybe on specific issues, maybe for specific things. For example, can group leaders come together to support one another? Because I think that's also how best practices get spread and get built. So the coming together, I think it's really an important part of the equation for both organizations. How do we build that platform? And in today's world, how do we be inclusive? Because that's getting more and more tough.
Yes, I think, so now Yoki is asking this question, when do you think it's time to go together more than working together, but to make one from two? So I can just answer, and then you continue, Michael. So I just want to share a small experience which we has having now in Russia. So we have playback school for many years, and playback school was organizing the conferences and, supporting trainers with supervision and, all those actually important stuff. But now we face the needs, and we realized we need association, Russian speaking association, because it's not a job of school to do the certain things just because we start crossing the interests, So if we say, playback school is, supporting professional growth in playback as a trainer, as a director of the playback group, as a actor, conductor, whatever it is, and then association is the space who actually supports and do some exchange between those who is interested, let's say, working with the communities, with the direct communities. So that's how we can also come together, we exchange, we brainstorm. And actually maybe this is the business of not school but association on like IPTN. So that's actually what we're facing now in my country, and we're realizing more and more it couldn't be one organization. Otherwise, it's too much, and otherwise we're crossing the interests, and then it's a double standards appearing, which is quite hard.
I think I don't know what the future holds, right? It's impossible to say what needs to happen for two organizations to become one. I think what can realistically be said is that there is even now a lot of opportunities for both organizations to collaborate on certain things, to be closer, to be more in contact. And perhaps that's a good enough first step. And let's see what happens. It may be perhaps that we will find that, okay, one huge organization, it's too much and too horrific to get anything done. I think, one common problem is we already have hard enough time finding good time zones for meetings. So I can imagine, if
the same
we all had to come together. But perhaps there are different ways of doing things in future. I don't know. I think the first step is let's come closer. Let's collaborate a little bit more, and then perhaps in the years ahead, the community will say what's needed. Perhaps the community will give us a good enough reason, and not just a want, but a good enough reason and a good enough set of circumstances that it makes sense for two to become one rather than two. So I think I'm not ruling it out. I don't think it's in my hands. I think the first step is let's collaborate. Let's even today, this is a good enough first step to even just start talking and putting our faces to the community. And it's interesting what York and Luigi has said, because that has come up from time to time. Why are we two different organizations? Why not one? So
for decades, it was the question for decades. And I guess, as Jonathan and Joe saying, like, we tried many times, but it never works because it's a different goals and different purposes of these two organizations. Even now, when you say let's collaborate, we need to be clever and find where we can do it. Which so it will make sense. Or it could be one organization but two huge departments, let's say, but then it will be much more complicated than you think. And I guess we don't want to create monopoly.
So I think that's another point, right? Like we're now talking about these two organizations, but the truth is there are so many other playback organizations around the world, associations, national associations, schools that are not affiliated. I think that's great. When in my first meeting in Montreal, let me rephrase that. In the Montreal conference, after that, there was a meeting between the two boards of IPTN and CPT. Part of the conversation was, part of the conversation came up about the picture of how CPT and IPTN are. There was the picture of an umbrella, and CPT is the stem of the umbrella, and several other images come up. But my thought was that, an umbrella provides shade, but in other contexts, the umbrella is oppression. If you don't want the shade. And perhaps it doesn't have to be like, either of our organizations are in the center of this bigger community. I think it's more that, of course, we acknowledge we have extraordinary influence, but there is space for many other organizations to come up. I'm looking at the chat, and I think Susan wants to say something, if I can find her.
But maybe Susan, can you unmute yourself?
Can you see Susan?
No, I cannot find.
Susan, unmute yourself. I see you, but you're muted.
Susan, you're on mute.
Okay, unmute now. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Okay, thanks. Terrific. An honor, a pleasure. Greetings. As you know, my main project has been in Cuba, although I had a company in New York for 4 years. But for the last 20 years during the winters, I go to the island. It's a political task for me too, because my country has a blockade against Cuba. So I go in civil disobedience and in an attempt to end the blockade, which is even more essential now after the epidemic, and they need syringes, not the vaccine. They have the vaccine. Thank goodness. Okay. I want to say about our community building there, and thank you, Nastia, for referencing the 19 gathering that we had. Please come. We have plans for 3 brief smaller gatherings in November in Havana, in the mountains in the center, Cienfuegos, in the countryside, a rural company that has been doing playback for 20 years, in January, and in April in Oriente, in the most Afro-Cuban part of the island. We're going to have another national gathering. We desperately need teachers. So if you can come, if you want to offer something, please do. Okay, my feeling about the difference for us, and I'll say we because I feel part of the Cuban community. The difference between the training and the gathering is really very important because Michael worked, thank you very much, Michael, on a letter to say that we have to collaborate with trained teachers. We need certified playback trainers, not Cubans who've done playback for 2 years, teaching classes. So the certification aspect is critically important when starting a new community, to know that we have the same training that is given to everybody all over the world, where we have 3 candidates waiting for the leadership class, who the letter that Michael and I and a lot of folks in Cuba worked on was to say there are people authorized by the center who are responsible for that to offer the classes, because already rogue playback is being offered by people who've gone to 1 or 2 classes but don't have playback training and experience in companies that these 4 who we will prepare will have. As far as the 2 organizations, I think coordinate is a good start. Not to blend, that will evolve, but to coordinate, because we've had times, and I remember we were planning a national gathering, and the IPTN planned an international gathering in Brazil the same season, and I was stuck because I wanted to participate in the gathering in Latin America, but I had already made a commitment to do a national gathering in Cuba. So that was very painful, and it caused some static between a number of us who wanted to be in two places at once. So coordinating is extremely important. The calendar, what's going on where, who's responsible for what. And I think if you can achieve that in the next period with the new folks who are coming on to the center board, and with the brilliant leadership of Nastia, who's been to Cuba and referenced it twice, which made me feel very proud and you know, really more committed than ever, which I've been for the last 40 years. I started in playback very early as a fellow traveler, and then introducing it to Cuba. Anyway, so that's my, we need training. We're gonna have gatherings in Cuba, 3. And I think the thing for the two organizations is to make sure that the calendars are coordinated, that the activities are coordinated, that people get the calendar, you know, that everybody knows that the two organizations are part of the same movement. Thank you for your attention, and thank you all for your work, and I hope to meet you all, and many hugs.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you. I'll just say something about the coordination of calendars, and then Nastia can take the rest of it. I am undecided on one hand. On a personal note, I do see the sense in a coordinated calendar. On the other hand, I think it's beautiful when it's messy. It's beautiful when there is energy all over the place. And whenever we try to coordinate something, sometimes power speaks, sometimes louder voices seem to have more power. So I'm kind of quite glad, for example, in 2015, there was the Asian gathering and there was the IPTN conference. It was horrible for a lot of us in Asia because it was two big things we wanted to go to. But then, you know, we at least I made a choice, and I was kind of happy to go with it. And at that time, I had thought, gosh, can't they plan it properly? Can't they talk to each other and just put it on different years so that we don't have to spend all that money in one year? But the world of playback is so big and complicated now. I'm not even sure if to try to coordinate something as political as a calendar is a desired way forward. But who knows? If there are enough voices that says this makes sense, sure, then I think the least we could do is let's have a platform for people who are interested to make some kind of coordination of schedules and calendars to come together and talk to one another. I think that it's possible. Nastia.
Yes, thank you, Susan. I'm just also aware of time. We have 15 more minutes. Am I right, Michael?
Yes.
Yes. So, and maybe we can hear more, you know, from you folks. Any questions or ideas or suggestions? So please, you're very welcome to unmute yourself and speak up.
So there was a hand from Mireya quite early on.
Oh, Mireya. How do you see? I cannot see.
Voy a hablar en español y Andrea me va a traducir.
I'm going to speak in Spanish and Andrea is going to make the translation.
Thank you.
Con respecto a lo que habían dicho sobre las uniones de las organizaciones, podría compartir un poquito el caso de México.
I want to share the case of Mexico regarding this discussion about mixing or melting the two organizations into one.
Nosotros tenemos una red que une a practicantes de teatro playback y teatro espontáneo y hacemos fundamentalmente 3 cosas en la red: encuentros nacionales, jornadas nacionales y espacios para que los practicantes compartan su práctica.
In Mexico, we have a network that where people who practice Playback theater and teatro espontáneo, spontaneous theater, are converged in the same place. And we have three things that we do. We have national conferences, we have some spaces of diffusion, spread the technique, and we gave a space for other playbackers to share their knowledge with each other.
Antes también hacíamos talleres formativos, justo pensando en la certificación del centro de playback, pero hubo dificultad que tenemos que hacer, aparte de la red, una escuela de teatro playback.
As the network, we used to have international workshops, but then we decided that we need to, we organize those workshops in order to get the certification and following the training from the CPT. But now we are deciding that we have to separate that. We need to do a school, just focus on the training.
Entonces sí creo que es bien importante encontrar las conexiones y los trabajos entre ambas organizaciones, porque sí puede haber conflicto de intereses. Nosotras pensamos de principio que tienen que estar separadas por el momento en México.
So we have to take care of the two organizations and the things that they do separately, because they can become a conflict of interests. For now, for us in Mexico, we need to have two different organizations.
Es lo único que quería compartir. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Muchas gracias, Miri. Right. Thank you for this, sharing this experience. It feels like now in Russia we have quite similar experience with, separating two organizations, but still two organizations will be connected very much, So and I see Raman was raising a hand. Rauma, bye.
Hi everyone. First of all, I want to share my gladness when we start to say the different countries and the cities where we are and here, and it was really warm feeling. And that's why I want to thank you, and maybe not really good, but thank you to Pandemia that you make meetings in the Zoom, and I part of the project of different as affiliated school and others, and I want to continue this. So thank you that you started and continue, and bless us for all of us.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Yes, thank you. So I want to first say thank you for this meeting. It's actually a relief for me to be hearing, of this need for communication and collaboration between the two organizations. It's a big relief. And I don't want to go back to something. I'm just going to do a little comeback as a co-chair of the IPTN meeting in Montreal. And what I want to say is that I have experienced at that moment that there was a lot of energy lost in the organization because of the need to satisfy both voices, the CPT and IPTN. And if this beginning of dialogue can prevent that, people organizing whatever do not have to spend energy on top of the energy already necessary for an international conference, to have to spend energy to satisfy sometimes some contradicting voices. So I want to express my relief. Okay, another thing is that the way I experienced it, and I was not able to go in India, so I don't know about India. If I talk about my experience, the focus for the program committee is more aligned with the CPT in a way. In a way, I'm not saying completely, but it's because the program is about the content and what people are going to get their teeth into, which is very, very important. And in the on the side of IPTN, it's really about inclusion and, you know, where the money's going and how to welcome people from most places as possible. And it's a big job. So I really find that it's a polarity that needs to find balance. All the question of meaningful training on the one hand, and then the absolute importance of inclusivity and being aware of the international, you know, movement and who is there and where are the needs. So I right now also to end my intervention, I find that I find it could be more profitable to have the two working hand in hand because of the job being so enormous, but being conscious that both that polarity, absolutely, even if there's a good productive tension, it's great to keep that tension going and to ease some tensions by communicating and collaborating. I'm sure for whoever is involved in organizing an international conference or whatever, you know, meetings, would be very nourished by that collaboration, because the knowledge that is accumulated in that communication, because knowledge comes out of that communication, and whoever is organizing needs that knowledge and needs to be explicit and shared, and that brings comfort, as opposed to, I'm working on this, I have all kind of practical assignments to take care of, and at the same time I'm trying to find some harmony between those different IPTN and CPT. I mean, that's all. That's what I want to say. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
I'll be glad to collaborate for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it's also good to see you. Okay, and I see another hand, Maria.
Yes, hey everyone. I'm super glad to be here and really super excited. And I have a question about the colleges. And now we're starting something new and big. And I have the same question: how to start the playback theater in country where there are no playback in general? And it's more about the all organization, what I need to do with it in official way. Of course, I need some members, I need to tell everyone about the playback and everything, but in official part, what I need to do, where I can find the trainers with knowledge, for example, because I'm still haven't leadership. I have a certificate, but I will make a leadership, but still. How I can, I have my Ukrainian friends, of course they're always with me, but still in official way, what I have to do. That's it. Thank you.
I guess it's question to Michael.
Really? I thought you could do something about it too.
No, I will add.
Yeah, to answer it seriously, I think this is where having people come together and communicate with different people helps. You know, like you said, you're in touch with Ukrainians and so on and so forth. I think the first step is, okay, who do you know amongst, if you ask them, who do you know? I think the official thing is, yes, you could go to the CPT website. You could see that list of trainers who are near where you are. You could go to IPTN website and you could look at who are the practitioner members, so on and so forth. But the key is, who do you know well enough and trust enough to say, hey, why don't you check with this person? And I think,
Where are you?
and sorry, Susan, I want to finish this because I get so easily.
No, but what country is asking?
It's
Please.
Lithuania. Lithuania.
Thank you.
Lithuania.
Thank you. Sorry, Michael. Thank you.
No problem. I'm lost now. What was I saying?
You were saying, who do you know? What contacts do you already have to invite?
Yeah. So
that's good because that's what we did in Cuba. Thank you. Shut up, Susan.
Thank you, Susan. Mwah. So there is the official way, which is great. And I think if you email us or we get in touch with you, but nowadays it's so raw and energetic. If we're on Facebook, we message each other. We know this person, we know that person. It's not so much that everything goes by who you know, but the fact that there are now many platforms where playbackers can come together to talk about many things. For example, in a couple of months, I think there will be something called Group Leaders Network, where if you're a leader of a group or if you're planning to start a group, come together and let's start sharing resources. So that's one example. I hope I answered it. I was a little bit in a rush and then I got lost. Sorry. But let's keep in touch, Miriam. Jerry.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I'm Lithuanian and won't make a contact.
I met playbackers in Lithuania a very long time ago. I think it was somewhere in one of the countries.
I find someone from Latvia. I will find you in Facebook.
Masha, мы рядом.
Of course. Thank you again.
Thank you. I guess this is the, besides CPT and IPTN, I really appreciate this group Playback Around the World, because all those questions you can ask there, I'm sure there's so many people to volunteer to help you and to find, some useful context. But if you will not, so you always very welcome to contact directly IPTN, or I guess I hope CBD too. So, and then there is certain people will, help you to find the right people.
Excuse me, I'm going to put in the chat an invitation for school leaders. We have a coffee break meeting on Wednesday morning. Okay, so I'm just going to put that here for whoever would like to come.
Jerry, you had a comment or question?
Oh, yes. Because I checked where the two organization register, and I think it's very difficult for the two organizations really integrate in very short time. But I'm thinking, do you think if you both have a small community called IPTN and the CPT in the two organizations, and the small community could have some people get together to discuss some issue like you both face, because you all register in the United States. I think you have some official things need to do together, and if you have a small community to discuss some issue you both face, it could be a chance for the two organizations to bring together to collaborate. Yeah, that's the thinking. Yeah.
Thank you. In fact, I think behind the scenes, we are planning for interaction between the two. In fact,
sorry, maybe can somebody who unmute, can you mute yourself, please? So will not be distracted by some additional sounds, if it's possible. Thank you.
Yep. So I got lost again.
Susan, can you remind Michael?
I got it.
I mean, could both of the two organizations have a small community?
Yes.
Called IPTN and the CPT. That you could discuss something together with each other?
Sure. I think a quick answer is that the two organizations are in touch. It's not like suddenly after so many years, the two of us, we suddenly appear in front of you and hey, we're friends. In Montreal, me and Yuri, the last president, after our two meetings, we went for a beer, we went for a walk. I think that's also when we started finding possibilities of coming together. When the CPT was looking for a new treasurer, we also asked the IPTN treasurer, hey, what advice do you have? What is needed and who do you know, so on and so forth. I think what's interesting is also that in October, there is a transition to a CPT. IPTN has just transitioned. So perhaps let's give some time for both organizations to transition, find their feet. But we have more or less agreed, let's have the two boards meet sometime later in the year. So it's baby steps, it's first steps. Let's see what comes out of our first meeting, playing together, meeting together. Maybe something concrete happens, but I think it's a good enough to have a first step. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Michael. What I want to add is also, regarding this survey where we, as IPTN, asking for what is your needs. There are some questions. How you or if you want, or how you can also support the community and how we can support you in these ideas, so which I guess one of the important questions now, because IPTN is, again, it's not board members and it's not only members of IPTN, it's all of us. So, and now I guess the intention is to open up for the bigger world as IPTN, and also support all of you with your initiatives inside the playback world.
While we're on that, I think I know Sveta has her hand up. I just wanted to just bring in the challenges that we have today. It seems easier to connect to people from all over the world, but at the same time, I think it's also very difficult to truly authentically connect in an authentic way. In some ways, you might say playback deals with life and life is political. This world is political. There are a lot of political situations and realities. And it really is, it's not quite enough to say, we listen to everybody's story and all will be well. Even to do that, we kind of need to be in practice. We kind of really need to figure out what we need as playbackers. But today's challenge, at least from the CPT's point of view, one challenge is that there are many different political realities for different parts of the playback communities. It's easy to say, let's come and talk, but sometimes it's not so easy to do. And in a world where now there is apparently a lot of money around the world, I think finding enough money to do things is also a challenge, to be honest. We don't know what the world is going to be like in the next 2-3 years with travel, and how that affects coming together, how that affects getting anything done, how that even affects the evolution of playback. So I think these are very current and real challenges to consider as a community, not just as an organization. Nastia, if you want to respond, and then we can go to Sveta. And then,
yes, thank you, Michael. I just noticed Sveta raising the hand. Sveta, if you can take just 1 minute, and then we will be wrapping up. Okay.
Yes, thank you. I will be quick. Hi, guys. I'm so happy to be here. I wanted to share that I was really interested in both organizations long before I was invited to join the board of CPT. Right after I was introduced to Playback, the first thing I did was to search for the organizations. And I was really surprised to hear that someone was confused. I mean, it's so obvious. I mean, for me personally, it's so obvious the two organizations have different goals and they serve in different ways. and I was never confused about their their purposes or of their ways of doing it. Maybe because I did my research and spoke to people if I didn't understand something. But for me, the both organizations have its place, and they are doing an amazing job, in my opinion. I think for now there are so many things that have been done, and of course will be done. In my opinion, they can of course communicate more, but as someone before said, it's a huge work. I organize society here in Bulgaria, and I organize different kind of things, and this is a huge work. And to only to gather people to talk for a meeting, it's a huge work. So in a way, I think that if it works, don't touch it. I mean, it works. It works, guys. So I just want to say that I'm so happy to be here with you, and you're doing an amazing job, guys. And I'm looking forward to collaborate and maybe to improve whatever is possible, if not just to continue the good job.
Thank you, Tsveta. I guess again, I want to remind all of us, you know, these two organizations is just serving all of us. It's not separate, you know, commercial monopoly things. I mean, this is all of us. And I guess one of the things I just want to mention, you know, when I became a president, I guess it was 1 month ago, I came home and my grandma, she came to me and said, "Hey, Nastya, will you buy us a new flat now?" I said, "Why?" She said, "Oh, you became a president." I said, "No, Grandma, it's a volunteer job." It's so funny. But again, I just want to say, you know, it's a volunteer job for all of us. And maybe it's good it is a volunteer job. So so I guess I also want to say thank you for all the 16 board members, and some of them are present here, and thank you for your commitment and for your time. You will spend and spending already for all of us. And yes, we open and we ready to all your suggestions and ideas, and you're very welcome to contact anytime you want, and we will answer in our time zones. Michael.
I remember my wife tells me from time to time, she kind of makes notes of me all the time. I think only Jerry might understand this, because chairman, if you say it in a different way, it's chairman, which in a Chinese dialect, it's blind. It means blind. So I think it's great that she's reminding me that there are many things that even in this position where supposedly you can see many things, that we can still be blind to the needs of different people and the needs of different situations, on a personal level as well as an organization level. I don't think that the CPT speaks for everybody in the community. I think the CPT invites as many people from the community to engage and interact as much as possible. I think through the interaction, through the engagement, the community keeps us from getting too many things wrong. If we don't hear your voices, we have no information, that's when we start to make certain decisions that may not work out for many people. So I invite you to please connect with us and to keep speaking to us. At conferences, on Zoom calls, whatever it is. I still remember talking to many people in different situations. And yes, things don't move as fast as we would like them to. And yes, sometimes we feel we are not listened to because we don't get what we want. But this is the world. This is sometimes things move at different speed. But what's important is that we can somehow move together towards each other and towards a certain direction. And that's my invitation to everybody.
Yeah, and maybe next meeting we can, Michael, also create some talk about all the mistakes and failure CPT and IPTN had, because actually this is a good thing. This is how we can learn. You know, I appreciate all those books of Jonathan and Joe, because from the first chapter they start talking about their mistakes, and it allows me also to be human, and you know, and keep going, and keep, you know, doing what we do now. And I guess it's also very important not to be afraid to, you know, admit the mistakes we did all over the years, and it makes us stronger.
Acknowledging the things you got not quite right, got wrong. It's great.
Yeah.
On that note, Nastya,
thank you so much.
Thank you very much for making the time today. And everybody, thank you for being with us today. Good health, be safe, take care until we meet again. Bye, everybody. Thank you. If you have any other questions, please get to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.